Hi, welcome to today's class session, which focuses on the fifth element in Latica and Stark's academic plan, which is instructional processes. This is segment 1 of today's session. In today's discussion, we find that multiple factors influence an instructor's choice of instructional processes. Faculty typically consider learners and learning, available resources, and choices of instructional processes as interdependent variables within an academic plan. In addition, in national surveys of higher education faculty, more than 50% self-reported that they rely on lectures as the primary delivery format in their courses. Early career faculty are more likely to engage in active learning instructional methods than their mid to late career colleagues. Could this be that those early career faculty are more engaged in technological advances in higher education than their older and more experienced peers? What do you think? Let's take a look. This infographic illustrates the different generations and the methods and media that were available as each generation grew up. We see here how technology has changed the way we access information, how we learn, learning resources, and our expectations for the education process itself. Not only does this show differences in generational learning, it also impacts the workforce too. Here we see the 4 generations identified by years of birth and the differences they face when interacting in the workplace. Thus, it becomes increasingly important that faculty in higher education recognize the need to expand choices of instructional processes to enhance student learning and engagement for all students. When we talk about influences on instructional processes, we typically look at 3 main categories: teaching styles, contextual influences, and expanding choices. With the first one, teaching styles, we see the influence of an instructor's view of his or her academic field and how this interacts with their experiences, beliefs, and views of students to produce decisions about a particular course. This illustrates that teaching styles are not context-free, but constantly change and evolve. Experienced instructors view students as partners in learning. For the second one, contextual influences, it is seen by Table 7.1 in our textbook on page 188. This illustrates the differences in the percentage of faculty in professional fields who consider the goals of their own program, plus students' career goals and educational goals in course planning, versus faculty in general education. Faculty in professional programs consider these influences more often than the general education faculty. There's also a greater difference in the influence of accreditors and employers on these 2 groups, thereby indicating the specialization criteria found in professional fields and schools. For the third one, expanding choices, as previously discussed, few college faculty have been trained in teaching and need to take into consideration their learners' prior knowledge, prior experiences, and misconceptions, as well as learners' goals in making decisions about instructional processes. When we explore teaching styles, we see how the concepts of sage on the stage and guide on the side have evolved, beginning with Axel, who identified a didactic teacher as one who tells students what to know, and an evocative teacher who encourages students to discover knowledge. Dressel expanded on the evocative teacher, classifying them into one of 4 orientations: toward their discipline, toward their self, toward developing a student's mind, or towards developing a student as a person. Here you see the development of the sage on the stage and the guide on the side over time. Keep these in mind as you do your classroom observation assignment and identify the instructor's teaching style. Jarvis also advocated for 3 teaching styles: the teacher-controlled didactic, the Socratic style, where the instructor directs and the students react, and the facilitative, where the instructor creates learning experiences and holds students accountable for their own learning. Next, we see that Kimber and Grove's 1994 study of teaching in higher ed revealed 2 contrasting orientations. 1, knowledge transmission on the left, where the instructor knows their discipline, imparts information to students, and may actually depress students' use of deep learning approaches. And 2, on the right, learning facilitation, where instructors are facilitators of learning, dependent on student participation, and care and motivate student learning. Trigwell and Prosser identified 2 teaching approaches: information transmission, which is teacher-focused, and conceptual change, which is student-focused. These are very similar to those of Kimber and Goes. And finally, Bigland's typology classifies teaching styles into teacher-focused for the hard disciplines and student-focused for the soft disciplines, based on the rationale that hard disciplines typically focus on concepts to be learned, while in contrast, the soft disciplines focus on relationships and ideas. The instructional process goal encompasses learning plus the learning experience to result in learning. Therefore, teaching style impacts learning. We see this as the basic formula for the instructional process. The learning experience itself should motivate students and relate learning to a student's personal goals by providing a valuable experience. In this process, learning-directed goals should have relevance to career and personal goals. College-level learning is actually the joint responsibility of faculty and students. This is cultivated by an environment that promotes 3 things. First, mutual respect. Second, a common interest in inquiry. And third, freedom from anxiety. So for segment 1, there is 1 activity. Individually, please review the 7 principles for good practice in undergraduate education by Chickering and Gameson on page 227 in your textbook. Using this as a model, please create 7 principles for good practice in graduate education. Once you have completed your own list, compare and discuss your answers with your group in Google. Then create 1 Google document with the 7 graduate principles you have agreed on and submit it in the designated area on Moodle 2. Once you have completed this assignment, then please proceed to segment 2 PowerPoint for this session. Thank you.